This is it, guys.
We made it.
We're at the
We
end.
have hit the peak. We stuck our flag in. The pile of Kubrick has been conquered, and we end on his longest shoot. I think it's record longest shoot ever of any film.
Mm.
And of course, it has to have Tom Cruise in it. The man himself, the legend, a young Tom Cruise, but like a fine wine, he gets better with age.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a movie where you fuck around, you find out, and you fuck. So this is the final film by Kubrick. He died 4 days after he gave him the final cut. So is it actually a Kubrick film? I mean, he didn't score it. He didn't have say over the score or anything like that. But anyway, that aside, what you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, like every Kubrick movie, I went into this one thinking, this is gonna be not the best one, right? I mean, I have like an image when I go into a Kubrick movie that I think I know what it's gonna feel like, and it's gonna be a little more dry and a little more serious. And then every time, instantly, it's like more jovial and like playful and like intentionally like the storytelling doesn't ever feel stale. And I'm just like, man, I'm in good hands. And this one felt the same way. I was like, not ready. I was like ready to not be engaged, and by minute 20, I was fully in and I was ready. And another great film. I mean, this one takes some turns, obviously, but yeah, I think you need this one can't be looked over in Kubrick's filmography. It definitely has its own little spot,
For sure. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, it was good. Like I thought the main characters, Kidman and Tom Cruise, were fantastic. I thought they both killed it, just like acting, and then their relationship as characters was really cool. But yeah, just not my favorite.
Yeah.
It's fine, I guess. But
Me
What
and
do you
Kubrick
think?
have had an emotional relationship.
A lot of ups and downs.
A lot of ups and downs, mostly downs for me. I mean, we started pretty high because I really enjoyed that first one, And I have to say, we ended pretty good. I mean, this movie kind of fucking slaps.
What?
I, I like similar to you, Matt. At first, I went in. I'm like, I don't know. This seems kind of weird. Like, what is this plot? This woman is just being mean and just telling this man that she's like, yeah, we were talking about our family and talking about our future, and the whole time I'm imagining fucking this dude, and I'm like, this is just cruel and unusual, man. Like, what the fuck? But god damn it,
You brought it
by the
home?
end of it, I sat there after watching it. I'm like, wow, that was actually really good. And I mean, he ends it perfectly with Kidman. There's one thing we have to do as soon as possible. What's that? Fuck. I'm like, God,
Yeah.
that's good.
He knows when to cut the credits, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I think, especially Full Metal Jacket, Tarantino, the style of the cut to credits that Kubrick does, I think Tarantino kind of took a little nugget out of that because it's got some
it's
flair when he cuts,
yeah,
it is. It's so obvious now after like seeing all his stuff that his tendrils, Kubrick's tendrils are in everything in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, he's influenced a fuck ton and it's undeniable. I mean, technically, by a technical aspect, he's definitely, influenced Hollywood and just I don't
Yeah.
know. I think these are his strongest movies, these last two, in my personal opinion. So
Nice.
some of his strongest. There's a couple good ones in there, but like I really enjoyed this one more than I thought I would.
Nice. Was it Tom Cruise that really held you, or was it like? I'm
That's
sure that helped, right? I mean,
it did help, yeah, because I mean I'm a fanboy, as Clarence would say in True Romance. I'm not gonna say what he would say, but I'd bang Tom Cruise, if given the opportunity, right?
yeah.
But no, I enjoyed Tom Cruise. I love his movies, and I think it kind of helped, but this also felt like Full Metal Jacket. The story was there too for me, and I feel like Kubrick kind of cared more about the story in like these two films more than most of his other ones. I mean, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's what it felt like to me. They felt like the warmest, and
yeah.
they felt like the most care was put towards the characters and their development, and
I feel
I don't
that
know where
this
they
one.
started and to where they ended up.
Yeah, I feel I totally agree with that. I felt like super just like ingratiated to these characters more so than any other characters in in previous films. I was like, I just like immediately, like I just like get these two characters almost immediately. You know what I mean? Like,
It is kind
um,
of not strange, but it's cool that Kubrick doesn't have a lot of movies that are just like taking place in like modern time.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it was easier to relate to, where it's just like he's actually telling this story in 1999 or whatever. Almost,
Mhm.
I don't know.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I found it pretty easy to relate to these guys too. I actually was kind of worried right at the start that both these actors weren't going to be able to live up to the challenge of this movie.
Mhm.
For the first two scenes with Cruise and Kidman, it's almost like they just had to like warm up a little bit for some reason for me. Maybe I did. Maybe I had to warm up. But
Mhm.
they once it took a little minute. It took a minute, but like once they set in, man, especially Cruise, I think killed it. But Kidman did a lot of great work, a lot of
mm,
very revealing work. I mean, the first shot of this movie is just Nicole Kidman's ass
Yeah.
yeah.
cut to Eyes Wide Shut, and everyone's just like, "No,
I'm
eyes,
in.
yeah, eyes will
You
not
son
wide
of a
shut right
bitch.
now."
Right.
Yeah, really great work overall. Like I went on the journey with him and with the actors as well, which I was kind
Yeah.
of worried
Mm,
I wouldn't be able to. But
And that was the thing. I've heard like, Kidman brings it in this movie, but honestly, I feel like Tom Cruise's performance kind of nudges ahead just because I mean, he has a little bit more to work with
yeah, he
as the
does.
movie
yeah.
progresses.
Mhm.
I mean, she brings it when she does, but I still feel like I don't know.
It's a
Like he
very
has the
like
Tom Cruise
subdued.
crying and like he's internally fighting all these things, the jealousy that he's never felt before
Yeah,
and
he's going
Right.
through a lot of stuff, and she is
right.
too. I don't know, man. Nicole Kidman's acting sometimes with when she was playing high, it's just like you
Mm,
can feel her like trying to
Bit
be
hammy.
like prestigey or like trying to like
Yeah.
put some swang on it or
yeah.
something, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And Tom Cruise is
I see
playing it
that.
very like contained,
Right.
and she's playing it very. And I mean, maybe that's the character, but I sometimes I just see through Nicole Kidman's acting. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Mm,
there she
mm.
is, like, and that scene
Like
was one of them.
when she was laughing in bed too, that one I was just kind of like,
Oh
that
yeah.
could have used another take. I mean, they probably did 45, but I mean, what's 46? Do
That's
another
all
one.
Kubrick
Right.
wanted.
Yeah.
Maybe, I guess.
The right one.
So maybe that was just her character. It was a little hammy, but yeah, there was some scenes where I was just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, she brings it, but at the same time, she kind of falls off, like in and out
Mm,
of greatness.
I feel that.
So
That was a really good scene though, when they're just smoking and like that kind of sets off the conflict of the movie,
yeah,
where
yeah.
they're just like start to reveal too much.
Mm,
This movie does like pose a lot of interesting questions for people who are in relationships. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of the dark side of what these questions are, but these are nagging things in people's brains that I think Kubrick obviously knows. I mean, this
oh yeah.
movie is Kubrick's take on sex. Like he just wants to put situations, different sexual types of situations and innuendos, and it's dripping with like eroticism. This whole movie,
Oh yeah.
like.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
And he had a lot to say on like the subtext of sex and relationships and
consequences
Mm-hmm.
and
of yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So I think he had a
Yeah.
lot to say, and I think it all came through pretty well. And that's why I said this is like one you can't overlook in his filmography because it's like his little sex movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like right
And
there in the shelf.
and that's another thing. Like coming to a close with all his movies is there's not really one, two movies that are the same of
Yeah.
like genre or whatever. He's just testing everything,
Yeah.
It's
and
awesome.
it's what he does with it is it's different every time, and it's always got a fresh feel to it, which I think benefited me towards the end because it wasn't like I was going to a Kubrick movie thinking, oh, here we go again. The only thing I would say here we go again is like it's gonna be a fucking self-indulgent technical masterpiece that is just going to go on
Yeah.
for too long. But I think these movies were tastefully in length and paced very well. Especially this one, I thought, God, almost 3 hours, but I don't know.
Mhm.
It was just once you got the ball rolling.
Yeah, once the
Right.
conspiracy angle kicks in this movie too, it just gets a whole new
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
energy. And I mean the mystery of it all, kind of some of the
Right.
reveals are they're very well like plotted and paced. And then it goes to the end reveal of is this real or not? That
Yeah.
was a nice place to leave the viewer, I thought too, because it leaves it up, but you kind of have what you believe, at the end already, because
Yeah.
that's what he's playing with in the conspiracy of it all.
Right.
Also, a weird movie to end Kubrick's career on with opening up this little conspiracy nugget for everybody when he's
Right.
such a conspiracy-ridden filmmaker. But
Yeah.
forward.
I'm like sad to see Kubrick go, but I know like I'll be back. Like this one for sure. Like I'll probably rewatch. There's a few on my list, but
Definitely.
um,
I'll be rewatching his
yeah,
movies for the rest of my life. Absolutely,
yeah,
man. Hmm.
yeah, definitely movies I would like show people too. Like I don't know. I'd be like, I get why people.
You got to pick and choose the right one
Yeah,
though. It's weird. Like we said
right,
before, it's
right.
like these are all gonna hit people differently. So you got to kind of
There's
know which one you're going
Definitely.
for.
yeah,
Like Full Metal Jacket, I immediately recommended it to certain people, but then other people, I was just like, they probably wouldn't like this one as much. Same with
Yeah.
this movie. I'm gonna recommend it to a
right.
couple of guys, but
This one could
it's
be
This
one
one
that
could be
yeah,
very off-putting
yeah,
for
yeah,
people.
right.
could be. I mean, it was tastefully done. Obviously, I mean, I
Yeah,
read
I
Kubrick
think
did his
so.
research on how to keep it to where it's rated R and not NC-17.
Hmm.
Mm.
So he kept the sex at like the maximum he can get it at without being too much. But it was tastefully done. I
Yeah.
mean,
It was a weird little disconnect in this movie with Nicole and Tom being like married, obviously.
yeah,
Mm.
You're watching like a sex scene with them and it's like awkward. But then I had a thought of like, this shouldn't be awkward. This should actually be more normal because two
yeah,
actors who don't know each other is more awkward. So like these people that do it together is like, yeah, that makes, but it's like you're invading on their relationship strangely. So it's like there's this weird level of like truth to this role kind of too, which is
yeah.
nice in this movie, but also weird. I don't know.
Good way to end it on. At least Kubrick came into the back end and kind of gave me a pat on the back and said, "This one's for you, kiddo. Thanks for dunking on me for the past 16 movies, but this one's for you."
Yeah,
Just a treat.
this one was a little slap on the ass, like dink.
And yeah, and a little slap, little grab because Tom Cruise was in there. So he's like, "This one is especially for you, Alex."
Nice, man. Yeah,
Very enjoyable.
I guess if we're giving it ratings, I'd probably give this one 4 to 4.5. I think I'd probably go for 4.5, honestly. So
That's where I landed, 4.5.
Nice. Yeah, I would say 4 for me, but that's yeah, that's Stan the man, dude. Doesn't make
Stanley.
a bad film.
Yeah, man, I feel so
Cool.
like the goal of this dive is just to like get these directors' filmographies obviously checked off, but obviously to dive in and kind of understand them. I feel like so much legit. Like this might sound cheesy, but I feel like richer, after
Yeah.
watching this man's films. Like it's
Yeah,
nice to know this man's catalog and just to feel him through his films. Honestly, like so.
Definitely.
yeah.
And it helps you appreciate like the other movies that you love because like the greats that we know, like today too, is just like you can tell. Like they took Kubrick and they were like, this is watching his films were a school for them.
It
You know?
unlocked something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit that's I'm glad I watched them all for that reason alone too, because it just gives me more appreciation for the works that I really love.
For sure.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
thanks for that, I guess.
It's a piece of film history, man. Going back and like picking these apart. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
Well, thanks for sticking with us for the
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick dives, guys.
yeah,
We're gonna do our rankings now, so tune in to see what we decide. I
Yeah.
don't know. This is gonna be a tough one for me personally, but
Take your
Yeah.
guesses on what you think these two's tops are. I'm sure you can by the previous videos you'd probably
Right.
know what mine are.
thanks
Make it
again,
more
guys. See us on our next director's dive, whoever that may
Yeah.
be.
Stick around. Like, comment, subscriptions, all that good stuff.
Subscriptions.
Thanks for listening.
I'm sorry not to be able to be with you tonight to receive this great honor of the D.W. Griffith Award. But I'm in London making Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. And just about this time, I'm probably in the car on the way to the studio, which, as it happens, reminds me of a conversation I had with Steven Spielberg about what was the most difficult and challenging thing about directing a film. And I believe Steven summed it up about as profoundly as you can. He thought the most difficult and challenging thing about directing a film was getting out of the car. I'm sure you all know the feeling. But at the same time, anyone who has ever been privileged to direct a film also knows that although it can be like trying to write War and Peace in a bumper car in an amusement park, when you finally get it right, There are not many joys in life that can equal the feeling.